where does the people side of things, do we need to continue to worry about respect for people as a principle, or does it not matter anymore because technology is taking things over?
I'm not sure that technology will replace people. It will definitely require us for a different way to work. We should try to think of technology as a support to make us more productive. In the end, technology will never be able to replace human emotions, feelings, thinkings, these kinds of things.
Hello and welcome to this episode of the Lean Solutions Podcast. My name is Patrick Adams and I am joined by the one and only Shayne Daughenbaugh. Shayne, how you doing?
I am doing well, Patrick. I am doing well. I have looked around for others of me and I have only found me. So I appreciate that I am the one and only.
The one and only. There's a lot of Shaynes out there, but they have nothing on you the Shayne.
Me the Shayne, right.
Shayne, do you want to introduce our guest while I bring him to the stage?
You better believe it. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, today our guest is Marco Dannerhill. He brings with him a passion for continuous quality and process improvement grounded in an analytical mindset, systematic thinking, and an open mind. As we're exploring our topic today, modern lean thinking, we're going to hear how Marco's pragmatic, structured, and action-oriented approach, combined with a large portion of common sense and a deep understanding of the whole value chain, how that reflects that shift in thinking that we need now as we're moving forward. Now, with long experience in operational leadership roles, he's grown a strong strategic mindset, connecting the full value chain with disciplined execution. For Marco, the mandates for success are a high focus on teamwork and building a foundation of trust. Marco, we are so happy to have you here today.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here.
Yeah, we're excited to have you. This is your first time on the Lean Solutions Podcast. In fact, just so everyone knows, this is Marco's first time on any podcast. We are number one.
You are hearing it first here, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes,
exclusive.
Exactly. This is a milestone in my life.
Yes. Love it.
Yes.
And if those of you that are listening in might hear that Marco has a little bit of what I would consider an accent. He doesn't consider that an accent, but he's definitely not from the U.S. And you can also probably see if you're watching the video that it's a little dark where he's at. So Marco, tell all of our listeners, where in the world are you at?
I'm located in the country Sweden in Europe. I'm at the moment sitting in my home, in my kitchen, and the time is 7 p.m. for me. So the lightning here at the moment in this time of the year is not the best.
Right, yeah.
But I hope you can see parts of me at least.
We can.
Enough, right? We can see enough. Yep.
Marco, I'm interested to know. We heard quite a bit of your extensive background, and I'm curious to hear a little bit more about your approach to lean thinking. Do you mind just giving our audience maybe a little bit more information than what we had in the bio, like as far as, what's been your experience when it comes to lean thinking, and how, maybe even I'd be interested to hear if there's any differences that you think in how lean is being applied in Sweden, in the companies that you've worked in, or what you've been exposed to.
Yeah. And what industries as well? I'm very curious to hear the industries that you worked in.
Yeah, I have a very long experience and mainly only been working in one industry, and that is within the plastics industry.
Okay.
Let's say innovational solutions on how to improve plastics performance out on the market for different end users. So I've been working in the same company actually for 35 years.
Wow. That's amazing.
It's a long time.
Yeah. Well, and you know, you don't hear a lot of that nowadays. With a lot of people are
Yeah.
they're in a role for 2 to 3 years at the most, and then they're shifting either to a new company or getting promoted or whatever it might be. Right? There's not a lot of stability anymore, and when it comes to length of time, right?
Yeah, no, I know it's become very different, but yeah, I'm more the old school kind of guy in that way.
Sure. No, no,
Yeah.
that's
But
good.
that's super interesting because we're going to talk about the modern way of doing things, and you just said, "Hey, I'm kind of old school," in regards to your setting, but your setting doesn't have to stay, it doesn't have to remain the same. It doesn't have to be the same as it was 35 years ago when you started. So I'm super interested in, like, let me jump into this first question that we have for
Yeah.
you. As we're talking about this, you've been there 35 years. There's a difference between when you started to where you're at now. As we're talking about adapting lean thinking for today's business models, what are some of the biggest shifts that you've seen that make it necessary to adapt in the first place? What are some of these big shifts that you've seen?
Yeah, if I should compare about how it was like 35 years ago, it's like a night and day, of course.
Mm,
So,
yeah.
but I mean, the biggest shifts today, I mean, we can just look around in the world we have around us. There is much more uncertainty. Many things have happened during the years that have created this type of uncertainty on the market. We have all kinds of regulatory changes, geopolitical changes. Then we had the COVID-19 hitting us and caused a lot of disturbances on the supply chain area and the way we work in general, being more virtual. So I mean, it's so many things that have changed. And yeah, if I look at it today, I think even though I'm maybe seen as I have a long experience and maybe, you know, remembering the past, I think it's very important that we all, no matter how long we have been working anywhere, is we must adapt to the new environment and learn from what is coming and what we cannot avoid, including new technology. Like now we are coming into AI and all of these kinds of things. So
Right.
it's just there. Either we try to adapt and learn from it, or we will get bypassed, I think.
So how easy? Because I love this case study that we have in you being in one place for 35 years. How easy has it been for you mentally to adapt and to see these shifts? Sometimes I think it's really, just coming from my own perspective, it's really easy to, once I find a rhythm that works, I kind of put my head down and I just stay in that rhythm, and without backing up and seeing a bigger picture of how things are shifting, then you're right. I may completely miss the boat. So I'm curious for you, how easy has it been for you to make these subtle shifts, or maybe not so subtle?
Well, a little bit up and down. Sometimes has been a little bit challenging and quite hard to adapt to. Some moments been easier. I mean, we are also humans, so we also have that to think about. That it's not only about our work; it's how
Right.
our whole life is impacting us and the way we think. And I think what I can see today is everything has become in such a speed. We need to do things quick. We need to react. We need to change. We need to do this. We need to that. And personally, I think that maybe this is causing many people to run on some kind of autopilot system and not taking that time always to reflect, pause, and think about what is actually happening and what is my role in this. What can I change to make it different?
Mm, that's such a key point. And
Yeah, yeah.
I have a question just based on what you just said, that in regards to things changing so quickly. The complexity, the speed at which organizations are moving today is so much different than it was, 35 or 20 years ago, or even honestly, even 5 years ago. And it's not going to change. It's only going to get more complex. Things are only going to be, moving much faster. And to your point, if organizations don't learn to be flexible, to continue to improve, to meet their competitors, or to meet the needs of their customers, then they won't be in business for very long. But the question is, how do we also balance the fundamentals, or the principles of continuous improvement, those lean principles, those foundational things that are so key to helping organizations create stability and create a springboard to improve from? How do we balance those fundamental principles with the speed and complexity of organizations today?
Yeah, that is a very good question, Patrick. And I think that is one of the main challenges today, how to really balance this. And I mean, if we speak about lean and we speak about Kaizen and so on, I often hear comparisons with how this was developed once in the Japanese culture and from the TPS and so on. I think we may use those tools as good as we can in the Western world, but the culture of how we do it is completely different. But anyway, we are in the Western world, so we need to adapt to this as well. What I can feel is a big shift if I compare working with lean 10 years ago or something else. It was really focused on what can I do locally to improve this specific process, and we make a great achievement with the benefits for the plant or so. Today, doing lean is much more complex. So you cannot just look on what is going on locally, and maybe, yeah, maybe even more if you're working in larger corporations. It's completely different today. It's a lot more how to sustain, how to grow the business, and all the things that we do as needs to become much more strategic than it was before. That's a big shift that I can
Yeah.
feel.
So do you think with technology, things happening, that, like you mentioned, AI and some different things, where does the people side of things, do we need to continue to worry about respect for people as a principle, or does it not matter anymore because technology is taking things over?
Well, I'm not sure that technology will replace people,
Right.
but it will definitely require us for a different way to work. We should try to think of technology as a support to make us more productive.
Right.
But
Yeah.
in the end, technology will never be able to replace human emotions, feelings, thinkings, these kinds of things. At least not yet. Let's see what the future will bring.
Right. Right. In listening to you, I was writing some things down in regard to balancing that speed. And as you described it, I really appreciated how you described it with, going from previously it was more localized, maybe it's a process or a specific team or a specific area in the company. And now it needs to be, much more about sustainment, much more about strategy. And what I thought of also was, it being more about the system, not in,
Yeah,
rather than just this particular process, but how does this process line up or tie into the whole value stream or value chain, which we mentioned, in the intro, and understanding that. And
yeah.
I see that not only as a possibly a shift in how lean has been applied, but I also see this as a maturity in in how lean, how businesses use lean, how they mature in their lean use, and in understanding the principles and the foundations and all of that.
Yeah.
A company that just moves from, hey, we just want to find a better way to improve how the mailroom works, to, oh, let's look at the entire system, what goes into the mailroom, what comes out of the mailroom, how it all ties in, especially with, how it goes to our customer, all of that. But a systematic approach with lean, I think, is something that I'm getting very excited about and seeing that. And I don't know if that's because of how I'm seeing businesses apply it or just simply my own maturity.
No, I think you're absolutely right, and I think what also have to be considered today, that due to all the things that I mentioned going on around us, it's an uncertain environment. Companies are looking much more on cost as well, so
Right.
you need to be very careful on what you spend your time on, and really look at this cost benefit analysis. If we do a project on this, what will it really bring as a benefit for the company? I think that's a lot more effort going into that kind of analysis, and also, if we are looking at cost, and probably the companies are looking at headcounts, and we are doing restructuring, or we doing whatever changes to adapt to this new environment. And
Yeah.
and then we need to realize that some people not working in the leadership area, or in the project leader department or something like this, that don't have these insights maybe to the strategy, that it's a big risk that there will be a gap on the understanding of those people that are really doing the daily job and working on the shop floors. So I
Right.
think that is one of the key to bridge this gap. And therefore, today, when you are doing process improvement and so on, it's not just looking into the process itself. It's a lot about coaching and mentoring, and you really have to go into the behaviors of people a lot more today.
Right. So that brings me to the one of the things that I read when I introduced you was about your mandates for what you believe success requires is teamwork and trust. Right.
Mhm.
And that's kind of what you're talking about, without saying those words. If the leadership team has a strategy but it hasn't been communicated, and there hasn't been the investment in building the capabilities of people, then your frontline staff is going to be like, I hear what you're saying, but that doesn't mean anything to me. Like there's no trust. So what, I guess I've kind of answered it a bit, but I'd love for you to tease it out just a little bit if we can. What role does trust and teamwork play in keeping lean relevant today in the environment, this fast paced, bam, bam, bam?
Yeah, well, again, going back to strategy, often it starts with a very high level vision of where we want to go. And we have some strategic drivers and so on. And then we want to execute this strategy through the whole organization. But then we have to remember that those people not involved with leadership and so in their daily job, they don't understand. They maybe don't understand all these financial numbers and so on. We need to break it down into elements that all the people can understand, that this area is where you can make an impact to contribute to the success of the strategy.
I think that's an area where so many organizations miss is, and I think that's why you're harping on this so hard, Marco, is the upper executives, or the upper echelons of leadership are, they're getting out of the office, they're doing strategic planning, they understand a lot of things about the business that maybe those people that are in operations, maybe they don't need to know even. But what they do need to know, to your point, is how they can help impact the long-term plans for the organization, and how they can be a part of meeting those goals that cascade down from that strategic plan. And I think that a lot of times that's where companies miss, is that they do those offsites or they have that strategic planning, but then they never cascade it down through the organization. Maybe it's communicated to mid-management, but the frontline team members, the ones that are doing the value add work, the ones that are the experts in creating value for our end customer, they may not be getting communicated with on what they can personally do or how the work that they're doing impacts the goals or the end customer. And so I think that's such an important concept that you're putting out there, and one that organizations in all countries, struggle with. But there's the one thing that you said that I think is drives a question for me is you're harping on strategy quite a bit, and you're talking about that lean needs to be more strategic. You said that earlier. And maybe not just operational or not just in the operations. Can you expand on that just a little bit and maybe talk a little bit more about, how leaders can actually make that shift to helping lean become more strategic versus so operational?
Maybe before we did lean and we did Kaizen projects to improve the throughput of a machine, or we wanted to reduce the changeover time on a line, or things like this. Okay, this is still good, of course, but what does it really bring to the overall benefit and growth of the company? There is a lot more activities going on with people working with Lean Six Sigma in organizations, things like that, that is trying to build for the future. It doesn't mean that these projects will bring huge, high financial benefits right now, but these are things we need to fix if we, on long term, want to succeed with that strategy.
So what I just heard was, and correct me, shift my thinking here. What you're saying is shifting from the improvement helping us right now to we're going to be here for a while, and if we're going to be here for a while, we need to tighten things up for the long term. So lean has a more forward thinking than immediate thinking focus. Is that
Yeah, well,
in my words?
I'm not saying that improving the processes are not important anymore. Of course, they are. Every thing that improves is contributing. But I think it's not sufficient anymore just to focus on that part. You have to look a lot more on the bigger picture, but that's also why we have different levels of project leaders in the organization. We have the Kaizen leaders; those that are often leading those more local projects on throughput improvements and things like this. But then we have those higher trained project leaders, which are black belts and so on, which also it's the area where I'm working in. And there is a lot more looking into strategic goals and what is the right projects to work on to reach that success. And that's also a key, I think, today when we are selecting projects, that this pipeline of projects, you should be very careful on what you start. You're not starting putting efforts and resources into something that doesn't really bring anything in the end, or maybe it was a priority 10 months ago, but not anymore, because things are changing all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And I love that. So to kind of take this question and then let's I'm going to make up a word. This is the first time, again, another exclusive word here, actionate. We're going to actionate that question and taking it from just the theoretical, because what I just heard was, hey, a way that leaders can be more strategic rather than just operational is how we prioritize our projects, first of all. Right. Yeah. And you mentioned like a belt system or, lean leaders or whatnot. Those like, let's stop having our heavy hitters take the really kind of softball, or I don't know if that's too much of an American slang, but the really easy projects, we can actually give those to those that are just learning about lean, give those projects to those that are just learning about lean. Yes, let's not put those off. If it's just a simple process redesign for the mailroom, let's have someone else do that. But also, for where we really want to put our efforts and our energy, let's look at what's going to give us the best bang for it. What's going to give us the best results, the cost benefit analysis moving forward. As we're wrapping up here, because we are running short on time, can you give some more actionable steps that leaders might be able to do from your perspective, that leaders might be able to do to become more strategic? We mentioned prioritization of projects and being aware of that. What else comes to mind for you?
Yeah, but you're kind of hinting into it already. So those projects that might still be valuable, but not on the higher level, we need to empower the people in our organization, allow them to take their own decision, run the project, train them to use this lean methodology. And that's again where I come in. It will require a lot of time to coach and mentor people. This change, shift of culture and mindset doesn't happen overnight. So it's also leadership commitment to really stay focused on your people and how to develop the people. It's crucial today.
Mm.
It is.
Yeah.
I don't know if you thought of this, Patrick, but as he was speaking, what came to mind was when he talked about coaching and mentoring, the improvement kata, like that was the first thing that came to mind.
Right, for sure. And so how would the last question for me, Marco, and then we'll wrap up here. But if I was to walk into an organization 5 years from now, what would the behaviors of leaders look like? What would I see in the future? What would I see that's different from today when it comes to behaviors? Like you're talking about coaching, mentoring, accountability, empowerment, and those are all things that I would expect to see. But what are the actual physical behaviors that would be happening that would allow people to be held accountable, that would allow people to be more engaged, that type of thing? What would some of those behaviors be that we would see 5 years from now?
It's not a question I could answer in 5 seconds, maybe, but
Sure.
You can do it.
Yeah. No, but it starts already from the top. First, there needs to be this commitment or the alignment in the top in what direction we want to go. What should be our priorities? Then it needs to cascade down through the hierarchy and not stop at some middle manager, but all the way down. And there you will need to be out there with the people. You cannot change culture or behavior in sitting in an office and having 5 meetings per day or something like this. This is not the way it works. You need to be out with the people and lead the people, coach them, mentor them. It's the only way to change it.
Yeah. And I think that's the key, is that technology, AI, all of these things that are happening in businesses, moving so quickly, all the complexities, all of that is happening, yes, but it doesn't change the need for leadership to be visibly out at the Gemba and coaching one-on-one, mentoring face-to-face. AI isn't going to do those things for you.
Right.
And I think there's some people probably that could argue that a little bit, because they're, but yes, there will be AI coaching, but it's not going to replace the power and what a face-to-face conversation and leaders at the Gemba, what that does for your culture. And I think that's really what you're saying, Marco, is the culture is key. If you try to hand that all over to AI and think that AI is going to do your coaching, AI is going to figure out, how to map the value streams, AI is going to figure out how to do Gemba walks and identify your opportunities. Sure, that's all possible, but what is that going to do to your culture? And people have to be the most important asset, and they have to be respected. And if we try to turn all that over, it's complete disrespect to our employees. Well, Marco, I'm excited for 5 years from now when we jump back on the podcast and see if we were right about projecting what's going to happen 5 years from now. We
Yeah,
will see.
we
I
will
think,
see.
life is going to be a lot different than it is today for sure.
Sure,
But
that's the thing. A lot of things in this world is changing in 5 years. That's for sure.
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Well, Marco, thanks again for being on the show, and we so much appreciate your insight and all the work that's happening over there on the other side of the world, and we look forward to hearing more from you. If anybody is interested to has questions for you or wants to connect with you, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you?
The best way is to connect with me on LinkedIn, I would say, and that's a
Okay.
starting point. Yeah.
Perfect.
So,
Yep. So we'll drop Marco's LinkedIn link into the show notes, and then if you want to look up Marco Dannerhill, 2 N's, 2 L's in the last name, you'll find him on LinkedIn. Marco, thanks again for being on the show. We really appreciate it.
Yes,
We're gonna
thank
let
you,
you
sir.
get sleep now. It's getting late on your side of the world. So
yeah, a little bit, but no worries. I
all
really
right.
appreciated being here, and thanks a lot for a good conversation.